That's a lot better. That's a whole lot better. How's it going? Let's see. Oh yeah, I'm not the only person here. All right. So thanks a lot. It's 8 o'clock, so might as well get started. Um, I appreciate you showing up. So what we're doing is what's called a cold read. Um, a cold read is basically a read that's not rehearsed. So it's my first time reading through the book Rise of the School of Good and Evil. Here we go. I took the cover off. Is it right there? And the reason why we're reading this book is because in September there's a movie for Netflix coming out called The School of Good and Evil. Now this is the prequel to that series, and it's got a lot of amazing actors and actresses lined up in it, and the cast is just amazing. So I figured, how awesome would it be if we got through all the books and had some fun doing it. But yesterday was awesome. We got through chapters 1 through 5, and it was a whole lot of fun. So today we're going to go through chapters 6 through 10. And yeah, so before we get started, moderation for the stream today is being done by Live Downrange LLC. What they do is they provide professional moderation for content creators. Usually, whenever it comes to moderators that are professional and kind of like designated like for your stream, you're a really big stream with a lot of monetization behind you, which means that a lot of the younger streamers, a lot of the smaller streamers, a lot of just the main body of content creators don't usually have someone that's dedicated, and that opens up a lot of issues because content creation is a very, very large area, and it's growing. It's growing daily. The content you create and the community that you build is about your self-expression. It is about you, and it's about what you want to do and having that positive space for yourself and for those people who want to be there with you. So toxicity, harassment, threats, that doesn't make that a positive place. It doesn't make that a successful place for you. So if you go to livedownrange.com, they provide paid moderation. They also watch your Discord as well. So while you're streaming, they're taking care of the moderation on your stream as well as your Discord, just in case anyone that is looking to cause issues decides to jump in your Discord as well. So got your front and your back. All right, again, the website's livedownrange.com. There's a free 15-minute consultation, couldn't hurt, and they'll be able to help you out. All right, so we're starting with chapter 6. Section 1 is called Bad Magic. Okay, actually, yeah, I was going to go back and read like the end of chapter 5, but nah, it's cool. Let's go. Tempting a thief is never a good idea, especially a thief who thinks you've stolen from him. Since Professor Humberg was Evil's dean, his office would be on the west side of the manor. That meant Aladdin had to break out of his room, sneak over to the evil's wing and Humberg's lair, and steal back his lamp without anyone catching him. Even for a cocky optimist like Aladdin, the challenge was steep. Luckily, the good dormitories were unguarded after the teachers went to bed, trusting in the virtue of their students. So a short while after midnight. That's a weird way of putting that. Let me go back. Luckily, the good dormitories were unguarded after the teachers went to bed, trusting in the virtues of their students. So a short while after midnight, Aladdin tiptoed past his sleeping roommates and out into the hallway towards the stairwell. He stopped short. Hephaestus and Kima were on the steps, halfway down the staircase, playing cards. Hephaestus was in a tight, sleeveless shirt, and Kima in the purple pajamas that matched the streaks in her hair. Neither spoke nor made a sound, but from the way they peered at each other after each move, gloating or grinning, the whole game felt more romantic than if he caught them kissing. Aladdin snorted angrily, and the two Evers craned their heads, but Aladdin was already hustling for the rear stairwell, his fists curled. He wanted to storm to Professor Mayberry's room and report them for breaking the rules. He wanted to see those arrogant lovebirds punished. But since he too had snuck out of his room to do something even worse, he could only swallow his bitterness and stick to his plan. How could she choose that dead-eyed, overinflated dunce instead of him? How could she be so predictable? Aladdin sucked in a breath. Kima was just like everyone in Shazaba. Everyone who underestimated him and his worth. No matter. He'd soon have his lamp, and Princess Kima would be his. Didn't matter how he got her love. What mattered is that the world would see him as worthy of her love. Then he would be like Hephaestus, wanted and valued, not just in the minds of others, but also in his own. First things first, Humberg's office. He hurried downstairs, crossing the foyer to the West Wing stairwell. Aladdin stopped cold. Mayberry. Sweeping from the dining hall in a velvet dressing gown and spooning a chocolate pudding she'd received for a midnight snack, she lifted her head about to see Aladdin. All of a sudden, the dean froze, as if petrified to stone, the pudding spoon still in her mouth. He waited for her to move, but Mayberry just stood there, her gaze fixed past him. Slowly, Aladdin reached out his hand and touched her face. Her skin warm, her pulse strong, but she didn't flinch or shift, her body stiff as a statue. Aladdin hesitated, unsure what just happened. But like he learned when he stumbled upon the lamp in a market alley, one mustn't question good fortune. He ran past her, up the stairs. By the time he looked down, Professor Mayberry had unfrozen, already tasted her next dose of pudding and ampling on her way. There's a difference between good fortune and too much good fortune, though. From the moment he entered the West Wing, forces seemed to be clearing obstacles away, as if he belonged there, as if evil was his true place. The dorm halls were too dark at night to navigate, a maze of corridors and stairwells, and yet, whenever Aladdin reached a crossroads, a rat or a cockroach would skitter by and peep this way, pointing him in the right direction. When a one-eyed teacher turned into his hall, the wall reached out and yanked Aladdin back. An ogre guard slumped to sleep the moment he spotted the boy. Then 2 bats fluttered by, yipping, "Hamburg, Hamburg, Hamburg," and leading him to a door at the end of the hall, the dean's name carved into it. And if all this wasn't proof enough that evil was conspiring in his favor, the door to Professor Humberg's office mysteriously unlatched for him. Aladdin slipped inside, assuming he'd have to search for where the dean locked the lamp. Instead, he heard a rattling from a drawer in the corner desk. A drawer that, when he couldn't pick the lock, popped open with an exasperated creak, as if it had no time for amateurs. The moment he set his eyes on it, the lamp sparkled like a jewel, then went warm in Aladdin's hands, purring softly, like it had willed the boy to find it, and now it was home. So was it the lamp helping me all along? Aladdin reconsidered, watching his reflection in its surface. Maybe I am actually good. Because why would the lamp help someone evil? A snore came from another room, Hamburg's bedchamber. Aladdin seized his treasure and scampered out, Who or what's or why's didn't matter. The lamp was his once more. Soon he was back down the hall, firmly on the side of good, and it was here, on the balcony outside the room, while his roommates slept, that Adam at last had the peace and quiet to thrust his prize into the moonlight and rub it hard once, twice, thrice. Red smoke spun out, rising into a shadowy, slithering form, a snake surging high into the night, before shoving his face against Aladdin. "Young master," it hissed, "what is your first wish?" Aladdin recoiled. He always imagined the genie to be more friendly, more cuddly, and less scaly. "Speak, boy," the genie spat, her eyes glowing red. "Hey, Noah." Aladdin bucked up. It didn't matter who was granting his wish. It didn't matter if he was good or evil. What mattered was the wish itself, made with the purest good intentions. He glared into the snake's eyes. "I wish for Princess Kima to fall madly in love with me." A few floors up in their study, the brothers were having a late dinner. "Bragging about this lamp? Threatening to turn everyone into frogs? How can anyone think that boy is good?" Rafal groused, biting into his steak. "The pen is wrong about him, which means the historian can no longer be trusted." "The pen that named us as schoolmasters? The pen that keeps our world alive?" Rian said, sliding the piece of fish off his knife. "Forgive me if I still trust the historian over you. If it says Aladdin is good, it must be true. Just wait and see." "If he is good, then why didn't you see it to begin with?" Rafal challenged him. "Why didn't you?" Rian slung back. Rafal exploded. "Why is the historian interfering in our school? Why now? Good has won 5 tails in a row, and suddenly the pen's giving you my well-earned students too?" He swatted his plate off the table, crashing against the bookcase. "Suppose you're right. What if the pen is on your side?" "What if it wants to do away with evil entirely? Then what?" Rian sighed. "Calm down. The balance will work itself out like always. In the meantime, you've wasted a perfectly good dinner. Again." He kneeled down and cleaned up the mess. "Besides, it's only 4 tails. The pen isn't done with the tale of Peter Stimpf. He was one of our best students. He was one of our best students when he was here, wasn't he? Now he's a man-eating werewolf who might very well have his day." Rafal walked over to the white stone table as the enchanted steel carved "The End" into the book's final page. "Well, Peter Stump just got burned at the stake, and the dog's licking the bones, so not sure it's the victory I'm looking for." Rian took a sip of his wine. "Oh." Rafal tossed the book onto the floor. "Well, if Aladdin shows he's evil, that will rebalance things. And it'll prove we were right about him all along. That we were doing our jobs. The days of trusting the historian blindly will be over. About time we had faith in our own judgment, in man instead of pen." Rian said nothing, downing the last of the wine. "Pity the little thief doesn't have his lamp anymore." "Pity the little thief doesn't have his lamp anymore," Rafal added. "His wish would be very enlightening." Rian peered at him suspiciously. "I know what you're thinking," said Rafal. You're thinking, why doesn't my brother always cause trouble instead of being happy the way things are? Why can't he be more like me? I'm thinking that without me, you wouldn't know you were evil, and without you, I wouldn't know I was good, said Rayan. True, but all twins know there's one that was created better, Rafal needled. It is the secret that bonds them. I thought the secret was love, Rayan replied. Especially since it's our love that keeps us young and immortal. Break that bond, and we'd grow old and die. I can love you and still think I'm better, said Rafal. Which is why when Aladdin proves himself evil, I will enjoy watching you squirm. There was a scratching sound behind them. In the corner, the historian had opened the door and begun to write. Strange, Rihan observed. Normally it takes a couple of days' rest after it finishes. They stood and saw the pen painting a colorful portrait of a boy they both knew. Aladdin, said Rafal. He was holding the magic lamp, a snake genie unfolding in thick red smoke. Rihan glowered at Rafal. Pity the little thief doesn't have his lamp anymore, quote unquote. And this is the illustration. Neil, you can still buy it. Oops, Rafal said, grinning. Let's see if he does any better than Peter Stumpf. But the pen didn't write about Aladdin. Instead, the pen wrote something else. Once upon a time, there were twin schoolmasters, good and evil, whose love kept the world balanced. As long as the brothers loved each other, the pen favored neither good nor evil, each side equally powerful in the endless woods. But then one day, a student arrived who would challenge everything between them. Rian and Rafal glanced at each other, stunned. The historian had never written about the schoolmasters in any of its tales. The pen and its protectors had always been separate. Anxiously, the brothers looked down, awaiting the next part of Aladdin's tale, a tale that, for the first time, seemed to be about them. Chapter 8. The next morning, Aladdin woke singing the song of love, love with a note of vengeance, because soon he would arrive at the supper hall to not only see a real-life princess throw herself at him in front of the whole school, but also witness her lunk-headed love abandoned and betrayed. Was there any greater happiness than watching a wish come true? The supper hall was built in a round, like a theater that gave you a good seat to the action wherever it was playing out. Evers and Nevers were supposed to eat meals together, but Nevers generally stayed up too late and missed breakfast, leaving Good to claim the hall each morning for itself. Behind the curtain, enchanted pots and pans boiled and bubble-filling plates in rhythmic symphony. Cherry pancakes, eggs à la François, and honey-dipped bananas, each floated out to tables. Flowers filled the centerpieces, and carvings of frolicking cupids rimmed the walls, an endless chase of love. As Aladdin entered, humming and drinking in sugary scents, he noticed Princess Kima, seated with Hephaestus at a center table, a flock of boys angling for her and a gang of girls cozying up to her, while the pair only had eyes for each other. Without the slightest hesitation, Aladdin strolled up, swiped a banana off Hephaestus' plate, and bit into it, before perching on the table and swinging himself in Kima's direction. Well, he grinned. Kima glared witheringly at him. Well, what? Aladdin's mouth flattened. Don't you have something to say? Only that boys who wave around phony lamps and mess around with other boys' bananas don't deserve my words, Kima said. Aladdin's stomach wrenched. But I thought you're supposed to be. A shadow fell over them, muscular and bald-headed, dwarfing him in the corner of the hall. The other students backed away, leaving the two gladiators to fight. Now Aladdin knew for sure. The lamp hadn't worked. And if the lamp hadn't worked, then Kima wasn't in love with him. And if Kima wasn't in love with him, then he'd just stolen Hephaestus's food. Hephaestus, who was standing behind him, about to smash him like the banana in Aladdin's fist. Aladdin spun around. Hephaestus gazed back. The boy's big green eyes glistened. His lips were wet and parted. His hands clasped over his heart like he'd been struck with an arrow. "Hi! Hello! Aladdin!" Hephaestus stammered, his bluster and confidence gone. "I know we've only just met, but would you go to the snowball with me?" Aladdin dropped his banana. Oh no. No. The lamp, that shoddy sham of a lamp. It didn't make Kima fall in love with him. It made Hephaestus fall in love with him. There is a quiet that has no sound, like a black, empty silence at the bottom of the sea. No one in the supper hall moved. Even the enchanted pots had frozen in the midst of flipping pancake batter and cracking eggs. That sharp left turn. Aladdin gaped at Hephaestus, flailing for words, but all that came out was a raspy hack, like mothballs in his mouth. His hand went to the lamp in his coat pocket, as if the lamp was his heart, and a heart that had failed him. Princess Kima, too, looked like she'd been slapped, her would-be prince having lost interest in her and now drooling over the one boy she despised. But then she peered closer at Hephaestus, in his starry-eyed blankness, and his whole form slouched in submission. Slowly her eyes went back to Aladdin, to his hand on the lamp, glinting inside his coat. A phony lamp that had been confiscated. A phony lamp he'd insisted would grant wishes. All of a sudden, Princess Kima caught on to the story. That here in a magical school, the first act of consequential magic had happened. Magic gone bad. Her eyes narrowed at Aladdin. "Well, Hephaestus is asking you to the snowball. Aren't you going to give him an answer?" Aladdin snorted, expecting Kima to laugh at her own joke, but she didn't laugh. No one laughed. "Wait, you don't expect me to go with..." Aladdin floundered. "Hephaestus," Kima said icily. She turned to her former object of affection. "Hephaestus, please tell Aladdin why he should go with you to the snowball." Hephaestus sank to one knee. "Because he is the sun that shines light on the parts of my heart I never knew. He is the first sight of land when I'm adrift at sea. He is the path through a dark, dark wood." Dark wood. It's good. "I know no love but Aladdin. And when love is true, it must be spoken out loud. Because that's what goodness is. Honoring our heart. Showing ourselves without fear. It's why I ask you to the snowball, Aladdin, here in front of our school. Because if you say yes, you not only honor me, but you honor all of us, humbled by love." Aladdin rolled his eyes, about to tell this I agree, no, Aladdin does need a drink. Aladdin rolled his eyes, about to tell this fool off once and for all. But then he heard an unexpected sound around him. Sniffles. Sighs. Others were holding their hands over their hearts, wiping tears and catching back emotions, moved by Hephaestus' words. Even Kima looked stricken. No way, Aladdin retorted, turning on Hephaestus. No way am I taking you to the snowball over my dead body. Well, I won't eat until you say yes, said Hephaestus defiantly. He sat on the floor and bound himself to a chair leg with his tie. Your love will feed me. Aladdin waved his hand. Great! Go live on love. Better your dead body than mine. The room went quiet again. The air sucked out of it. Kima's eyes cut through Aladdin. This is the good school, remember? Evers believe in true love. To mock it seems like something I never would do. And given that you interrupted the welcoming, lied about having a magic lamp, and belittled and shamed Hephaestus after he professed his love as if you don't believe in love at all, is it reasonable to think that you cheated and thieved your way in? That you aren't worthy of your place here at all? Tension spiked. Everyone in the supper hall looking at Aladdin differently. Even the cupids on the walls shamed him with their glares. Aladdin's cheeks went red. Unworthy at home, unworthy here. And a real-life princess, his one chance at love, at respect, staring him down like he was nothing. He didn't know what to do. His soul was in a panic, and before he knew it, he was on his heels, peeking up at Hephaestus, the words sputtering out of his mouth. Shall we match outfits for the ball? Chapter 9. Raphael burst out laughing, watching the story and paint the scene taking place in the supper hall. Shall we match our outfits for the ball? He read, practically doubled over. Our precious little Everboy, in love with a girl, and now taking the boy she's in love with to the ball. And the snowball isn't for months, so imagine the suffering in store for all of them. Bet the historian didn't see that coming. The historian's telling a tale about us for the first time, the pen that's supposed to write about our students. Aren't you the least bit disturbed? Rian berated, his arm folded as he leaned against the bookcase. Oh, I forgot. You're too busy meddling in a ball. Well, because of my meddling, this tale isn't about us anymore, Raphael fired back. The pen said Aladdin would change everything between us. Well, nothing has changed, and it hasn't made a peep about us since. Instead, I've ensured every word of this story will be about the boy you thought could turn good, now proved to be very much evil. But why was the historian writing about us to begin with? Rian hounded. And don't even start. You've proved nothing. You tricked that boy into thinking his lamp was real, lured him into the castle, and practically handed it back to him. Only a famous idiot would think that lamp was real, Raphael snapped. It was laced with bad magic. Some homemade hex intended to punish the wisher. And even your Everboy is a thief. And given your Everboy is a thief, I'm sure there were plenty of people he fleeced in Shazaba, eager to bestow him with a curse. Well, whatever you thought, you want to fix it, said his brother. And why should I? Rian stared him down. Because it is your duty to protect the pen and school as much as it is mine, and your cheap trick isn't just a blatant attempt to sabotage the pen, but also a deliberate attack on the well-being of our students. And seeing you've never gone so far as to interfere with the good affairs before, it makes me wonder if you still have the judgment to be schoolmaster. A twist in the tale that is very much about us. So perhaps you've fallen into the story's path, exactly as the pen planned. The grin vanished off Rafal's face. He felt hurt so deep he couldn't speak. Never had his brother questioned his integrity or his commitment to the school. What started as a joke, a harmless bet over the leanings of a boy's soul, had festered into something harsher and more significant, as if a deep unseen rot had finally shown itself. He averted his eyes to the window. Well, it's too late now. I can't fix it. There's only one antidote to bad magic: to turn it good. Meaning, the boy has to achieve his original wish on his own. Rihan bristled. Let me get this straight. In order for Hephaestus to stop mooning over the boy, Aladdin has to win Kima's love fairly? More than just love. True love's kiss. Is that I'm casually the bad twin? Help. A kiss from a girl who has no interest in him, who suspects he attempted a love spell on her, and who no doubt wants to see the boy punished. Rafal was smirking again. Precisely. You claimed you could turn a soul good. Well, now's your turn to prove you have the judgment to be a schoolmaster. Rian flinched, his eyes meeting his brother's. Behind him, the historian wrote Rafal's words beneath a painting of the two twins facing off. What it didn't write was the thought going through the good schoolmaster's head. Such a mess this had become, all over a silly wager. Fixing this couldn't be left to the students. If his brother was going to meddle in this tale on behalf of evil, he would intervene on behalf of good. That was always the best path to solving things, wasn't it? Balance. Chapter 10. The first week of classes made Aladdin want to ask a stiff to eat him. He'd hoped at accepting Hephaestus's invitation to the ball would buy him time to somehow reverse the genie's hex, but once again his plan was thwarted. For one thing, he couldn't get the genie to come out of the lamp again, no matter how hard or how much he rubbed it. The brass trinket, now cold and dull, emptied of whatever curse it held inside before. For another, Hephaestus followed him everywhere like an adoring puppy, showering him with homemade gifts and love poems so horrible that Aladdin couldn't tell if it was part of the genie's curse or if Hephaestus was this daft. I think they're sweet, his roommate countered, a pale, willowing boy named Rufus who spent every free minute baking pastel-colored dingots and Newgatons. There we go, Newgatons. Aladdin was apoplectic. A magical watch that chimes, Hephaestus loves you, every quarter hour. A misshapen clay mug carved with our initials. A box of chocolates with our faces painted on them. Who gives chocolates to a boy? The chocolates were my idea, Rufus said quietly. I helped Hephaestus make them. Aladdin gaped at him. He wanted to ask how someone could believe that Hephaestus, the boy who had been in love with Kima, would suddenly now be in love with him. how someone wasn't seeing through this very obvious love spell that was ruining his life. The problem, of course, was that he couldn't confess his crime. Not after Kima called him a cheater and a thief. Admit that he'd cursed the most beloved boy in the school, and he'd be more detested than he already was. Plus, this was a school where love was celebrated. Every type of love. And the more Aladdin questioned it, the more unpopular he became. Rufius didn't help matters by telling everyone about the chocolates. "I wish a boy would give me chocolates," Kima said as she passed Aladdin on the way to her history class. "Maybe I should wish for a boy to love me." She gave him a long, lingering look as she turned the corner. Aladdin's heart imploded. She knew. Of course she did. Kima was as sharp as she was beautiful, which meant she knew he'd try to cheat his way to her heart. How could he ever win her now? On top of all this, Aladdin had classes to deal with, classes he was failing. Most classes at the school combined evers and nevers, part of the school's master's way of breeding respect between the two sides. Plus, it gave rise to a spirited debate between good and evil and healthy competition in the challenges that determined their marks. But regardless of whether evers or nevers performed better in a particular test, Aladdin always ended up at the bottom of the pack. In physical training, he left his team behind to capture the flag, breaking the cardinal rule. In a challenge about chivalry, Hephaestus gave him a lift up a tree, and Aladdin kept climbing, eager to be rid of him, rather than help Hephaestus up too. That was the test, he asked incredulously. That was the test? He asked incredulously. Why would I help him when he's strong enough to climb himself? The teacher looked at him stone-faced. Chivalry. In forest groups, where evers and nevers went into the woods to learn about flora and fauna, he confused a hive of wasps for a hive of fairies and ended up getting the whole group stung. Now, the word Magrif came back to haunt him. Because as it turned out, anyone who ends up at the bottom of the ranks wouldn't just wear the indignity of failing, they'd also be turned into an animal or plant for life. That's what a Magrif is? Aladdin reacted. Where do you think princesses get their helpful animals from? Or giants get their beanstalks? Rufus said. They're trained at this school. Why would you go to a school where you can be turned into a lemur or a tree pine? Or a slug or a stinkweed if you're at your level of bad, Rufus added. That's the chance you take when you come here. Win glory or live in eternity in shame. Better do well with the wish or with the wish fish challenge. That's Evers only, and it counts for a lot. Thankfully, the wish fish challenge seemed easy enough. It took place at the shores of a pond behind school, led by the animal communication teacher, a golden, muscular centaur with russet hair named Maxime, who explained that each of the Evers would take turns dipping their finger into the pond and focusing their mind to summon their deepest wish before 1,000 tiny wish fish, white as snow, sprang to the surface and painted their soul's desire. As long as the student produced a wish of good intentions, they would pass the test. Wonder what your wish is going to be tomorrow, Kima said, next to Aladdin. More bogus lamps, maybe? Probably, Aladdin sighed. Kima scowled at him. This isn't a joke. If you fail this, that's 3 fails in a row. You will be certain to end up a Magrif. Look at Maxime, Aladdin said, nodding at the centaur, tall and powerful in the sunlight. He's a Magrif and he's doing fine. Kima rolled her eyes. Not a Magrif, Maxime is a born centaur and probably graduated top of his class if he's a teacher now. The fly buzzing around his backside is a Magriff. Aladdin's throat clenched. Rufus went first, slipping the tip of his forefinger into the pond, and the fish whizzed into action, painting the boy outside a shop. Patisserie Rufus, with beautiful breads and pastries and chocolates in the window. That's the most goodness your soul can summon. Maxime pressed Rufus, arching an eyebrow. Wishing for your own bakery? Where I'd give out three croissants every morning to the poor children of the village, Rufus defended. I see no children, Maxime returned. They're sleeping, said Rufus. Fail, said Maxime. Next. Aladdin tensed harder. If sweet, helpful Rufus, who made Hephaestus's chocolates, failed, how is he supposed to pass? For Kima's turn, her wish fish painted her father, dancing with her at her wedding after years of suffering with a bad hip. Pure goodness, Maxime extolled. Of course, Aladdin thought. Not just beautiful and smart, but virtuous too. Then came Hephaestus, who wished for his twin brother to take his place at the school instead of him. He deserved it more than I did, Hephaestus confessed. Kima gazed at him with love-pooled eyes. Honestly thought he'd wish for me. Aladdin cracked. She gave him a lethal look. Wish fish find your deepest wish, not fake ones planted by second-rate hexes. Aladdin winced. Well, why haven't you told on me then? Because you're more capable of digging your own grave, she said. Aladdin, you're next, called Maxime. The boy gulped. Slowly he approached the water, the fish a mass of sparkling shadows under a surface, like diamonds to be mined. Aladdin sensed the Evers huddling behind, itching for him to fail. Wish for something good, he exhorted himself. Wish for something Kima would wish for, or Hephaestus, or anyone here but me. He dipped his finger in. Instantly the fish swirled into motion, painting a rubied seat atop a mountain of gold. The Sultan's throne of Shazaba, Aladdin crowned and wrapped in silks. His finger ringed with jewels, a mob of thousands bowing at his feet. And if that wasn't bad enough, he was gripping something in his lap. A magic lamp. The real magic lamp. Maxime's eyes narrowed. Kima folded her arms. Aladdin cringed, mouthing, no, 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 no. All of a sudden, the fish dispersed into a ragged mass, their scales reverting to white, erasing any remnant of Aladdin's wish before they launched back into motion, painting a new scene. Aladdin, a bald, wrinkled old man, making breakfast and dotting upon his companion in their cozy cottage. A silver-haired, stooped figure who looked just like Hephaestus. Aladdin yanked his hand out of the water. He spun around and saw the whole class gawking at him, Hephaestus included, the boys' eyes glassed with tears at beholding their future together. A true Evers soul, Maxime spoke wistfully, watching the fish still hold on to the scene. May you and Hephaestus find your happily ever after. Aladdin waved his arms. Wait a minute, that wish doesn't make sense. That can't be my... Then he saw Kima. No longer glowering at him with loathing or disdain. For the first time, she looked at him like he was a real person, reassessing him inside and out. "What a lovely wish," chimed a familiar voice. The Evers turned to see the good schoolmaster strolling by in his sweeping blue robes. "The fish normally disperse a moment your finger leaves the water, but even they want to hold on to Aladdin's soul," Rian said, sauntering along. "The best wishes surprise all of us, including the wisher. Carry on, Maxime." The next Ever was called to the water, but no one paid attention. Their eyes were still darting between Aladdin and Hephaestus, as if they had found a new standard for love. Kaimas sidled over to Aladdin, cracked a quieter joke about how he'd avoided eternity as a newt. But Aladdin was watching Rian as he walked away. Rian, who appeared like a charm, just as Aladdin's wish was revised. As Aladdin had this thought, the good schoolmaster glanced back and smiled at him, the same way the evil brother had smiled at him at the welcoming, before things had all gone wrong. So, true love, and that is chapter 10. True love. I do like the fact that they mentioned twists and turns, and that was a good twist. That was a good twist. He got himself into some shit. And it's funny because he did buy the lamp from people that didn't like him. "We are gathered here today for marriage. Love, true love." That's great. You were so right, Noah. Oh my goodness. Or, Barry Kripke. One or the other. Oh my gosh. So, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was actually really, really good. That was really good. So it turns out that this is changing my opinion of Aladdin. I have to admit, I've never really thought about Aladdin's character and Aladdin's personhood. You know what I mean? I feel like I don't know. It's a really interesting turn for his character. So I'm really curious to see how they interweave. Oh, thank you, Noah. I'm really interested to see how they weave in the other people from lore, and it was kind of cool that if you become the head of the class, you become a legend, and they told you that in the beginning. But if you fail the class and you're at the bottom of the class, then you become these other characters in fairy tales and whatnot, So I would imagine the mice in Cinderella. Probably. So that would be kind of cool. Sidekicks, yeah. Sidekicks or, props. That would be funny. If you became the apple. If you became the apple, who was it? Cinderella, right? That had to bite the apple? The evil stepmother's cat? Yes. I don't know though, but dude, come on now. If she was the evil stepmother, she must have loved that cat, dude. Yeah, there you go, Snow White. She probably loved her cat. That cat was probably good to go. It would suck because you were you were a sidekick and you were an animal, but evil woman's cat's got it made, dude. Made in the shade. So thank you so much for that. So tomorrow I will not be streaming. I know, it's freaking terrible, but I'm not leaving you because Saturday I will be. Saturday morning I'm driving to Alexandria at the 0:30. I'm going to be spending the weekend with my sister, my brother-in-law, and her two kids, my two nephews, and I'm probably going to end up reading more than 5 chapters Saturday because it's going to be by ear. But I'm going to try and stick to that number 5, 10, 15. Who knows what we're going to do? They just might get me through the rest of this book. Like we've already covered like 57 pages. So I will be back, and I'm going to post that on Twitter. I will put on Twitter that the next 10 chapters, or the next 10 chapters in part 1, are going to be on Saturday. We're going to be playing it by ear, but I'll give you guys a lot of heads up. It's going to take a minute for me to ride up there, and we're probably going to have the day doing Father's Day stuff. So thank you for hanging out. Again, just like with the stream yesterday, I'll have it uploaded onto YouTube. Chapters 1 through 5 are already up on YouTube, so if you missed that, feel free to go and check that out. I went and did a lot of work that I should have done a long time ago on YouTube, and all of the stuff is up there. It's all good to go and ready to rock and roll. I didn't edit anything out, so you got everything from this first minute that we started all the way to the last minute that we ended. If you like the content and you're enjoying Rise of the School of Good and Evil, by all means hit that like button, follow me, subscribe, because that's a great motivation. And I'll see you all on Saturday. Feel free to go over to the Discord, because I'll be doing a lot of communicating over there, whatnot, and I will keep everyone in the loop for Saturday. Thank you so much. Wait a minute. BL yesterday asked if we could raid. We didn't raid yesterday because at the end of the day we had like one person here. It was me and Noah basically. So we didn't do a raid, but we've got 3 viewers here right now, so we could do a tiny itty bitty little raid. I do not have in the chat where he asked for that person because the chat started over again. So I'll let him do it again next time. He can just find someone and tell me who he wants, and I'll give it to him. Okay, let's see who we're gonna raid. What are we gonna do? We got You know what? Miss Trash is playing Escape from Tarkov right now, so we could do that. Let's do that. Hang tight. There's only 3 people in the chat right now, so hang tight. Let's show Miss Trash a little bit of love. She's playing Tarkov, an incredibly difficult first-person shooter. That shit's real. So let's go ahead and start that. One and boom. Sweet.